Hello and welcome to the Ridiculously Good VA Show with Tracy Daviero. If you are a virtual assistant or want to be one, this is the place to learn the tips and tricks you need to become a ridiculously good VA. I've been a part of the VA industry since 1998, and I'm excited to get to know you and help you build an amazing business. Let's go. Hello and welcome to another episode of the podcast that teaches you how to be a ridiculously good virtual assistant. If you still need a solid foundation to set your rates properly, or define your services, or figure out where to find those great clients, pick up my Getting Started as a VA self-study program for just $97. Check it out at yourvamentor.com/links. Today I want to talk about difficult clients, actually messy ones. Today's quote is from Brené Brown. Clear is kind, unclear is unkind. What does this mean? Messy client situations are actually clarity problems. The more clearly we can communicate our expectations, boundaries, and processes, the easier it is for both you and your client to work together successfully. Let's go. Today we're talking about something that you will no doubt encounter in some form in your VA business at some point, and that is the messy client. To be clear, a messy client is not a bad person. They're not wrong or impossible, but they are a client who brings a level of disorganization or inconsistency or some kind of emotional overwhelm into your working relationship. And that can quickly impact your time, your energy, and your confidence if you don't know how to handle it. This episode is about helping you recognize the signs early, understand what's actually happening underneath the mess, and respond in a way that protects your business while still serving your clients well. Let's start with identifying what an actual messy client is. They're not always obvious at first. In fact, they often show up as enthusiastic, friendly, and very excited to work with you. Why wouldn't they? The signs usually appear once the work begins, because then we're into it, right? You might notice things like instructions that change after you've already started a task, requests coming in last minute and framed as urgent, missing information that you constantly have to ask for or chase, long, unclear voice notes or scattered messages, maybe across multiple platforms, and feedback that contradicts earlier instructions. A general sense that you're always catching up to what they actually want. The key pattern is not one single behavior, it's the lack of structure around communication, decision-making, and expectations. And that lack of structure is what creates pressure on you. Because the challenge with messy clients is not just workload, it's how it affects your brain space and your mind. It's definitely not just about the task. You have to interpret unclear instructions, fill in missing details, maybe rework tasks because the direction has shifted, maybe manage unexpected urgency, or even try to protect deadlines that weren't really realistic to begin with. A well-run VA business depends on clarity. And when that clarity is missing, your confidence starts to take the hit. It's just natural. As the VA, you don't lose control of this situation overnight. There's a pattern, but you might not have noticed it. But there definitely are early indicators. Here's what I mean. If a client can't clearly explain to you what they want in writing, that's a red flag. If everything they send you is urgent or even last minute in week 1 or month 1, there's another flag. If they resist or don't use basic systems like shared task lists or central communication channels or, project management systems, whatever, something that you collaborate in, that is also a flag. If you find yourself thinking, I'm not sure what they need, but I think I can figure it out, that is actually a flag as well. And none of these mean that you shouldn't take the client on, but they do mean that you need stronger structure, probably from day one or today's day one. And it might be the client's fault or it might be your fault. It doesn't really matter, but it is your job to make sure that the structure is set up if you want to continue working with that client. The mess has to get contained or tidied up, or you're going to regret it for as long as you keep working with the client. So here's the shift that separates the overwhelmed VAs from the confident VAs. We want you to be that confident VA, so listen carefully. You are not there to absorb chaos. You're there to bring structure to work that already exists. That means your role isn't to fix the client. Your role is to set the conditions where the work can be completed and delivered clearly and consistently. And there's a big difference. And it might even look different for each client. But in general, you should have a way to get things done, organized, and implemented. Good communication is really essential in a good client-VA relationship. So learning how to create that in your VA business is one of the best things that you can do. And when you stop trying to adapt endlessly to the various messes of the various clients, hopefully you don't have more than one, and instead start introducing very simple systems, everything changes for everyone. Your confidence grows, not from doing more, but being able to define how you work. It feels really good, you guys. Scope creep is one of the most common issues with messy clients. And it's also one of the most common issues with a lot of clients, even if they're not messy. But in terms of a messy client, it usually sounds something like, while you're in there, can you just quickly do this? Or, I know we didn't include this, but it should be simple for you to do. The mistake many VAs make is responding with an automatic yes, or delaying the boundary conversation until later. Instead, what do you want to do? You want to normalize the simple pause response. Something like, that's outside of our current scope, but I can absolutely add it on if you want. Let me send you the updated time or cost so you can decide if you want me to include it. So this does three important things. It acknowledges the request, it reinforces a boundary without emotion, it's just the facts, and it gives them a choice. It's not a rejection, but they have to understand that there's something that has to happen if they want something new. You're not saying no, you're saying this is how we handle new requests or additional requests. And of course, you don't have to do this with every request from every client, but you have to be really aware of the requests that come from the clients that stress you out, because these are the ones that you have to monitor. Things can go sideways really, really quickly. Trust me. I could tell you a million stories about how it's happened to me. But communicating clearly is really important to working well together, and it helps you not dread seeing their name in your inbox or project management system. And of course, that's what we want to avoid. We want to love our clients and work well with them. With messy clients, clarity can be tricky sometimes. You might have to figure it out. So don't try to guess or figure it out. Actually ask the client some pointed questions to figure it out or to help them tell you. Something like, can you show me an example of what you want it to look like? Which version do you prefer? Maybe, and why? Can you clarify this part for me? When do you need this completed? None of it's rocket science. It's just pushing a request a little bit further to get them to tell you what they want or need. A messy client will often give you vague answers, at least at first, and they'll probably speak in half-finished thoughts. Well, I don't know, I was thinking this, blah, blah, blah. They know what they want in their head, but they haven't communicated it clearly enough to you. And honestly, they have to learn to do that. You don't have to learn to read their mind. You just need to slow down the request process long enough to get the information that you need. It's going to be how you learn to communicate with each other. Everything being urgent is one of the fastest ways a VA loses control of their schedule. The important distinction is this: real urgency is actually very rare. Poor planning often creates fake urgency. And this is one of the most important things that you should learn as a VA. Not everything is urgent. In fact, most things are not urgent or even needed in a rush. Responding to your client's request with a calm structure sounds something like this. I can prioritize this today, but I need to move X to tomorrow to accommodate it. Let me know what you would prefer. Over time, this teaches the client that urgency has trade-offs. To get something faster, something needs to give, right? And without that feedback loop, you become the emergency buffer for their business. If you just say yes and don't tell them what needs to be disrupted for this new request to happen, they're going to take longer to learn it. And honestly, it gets tiring after a while. Again, ask me how I know. Messy clients often communicate in multiple places: email, text, voice notes, DMs, sometimes all one after another inside of an hour. And this is where you need to gently centralize the system, or maybe not so gently. At first, it's hard to be firm. You're going to get there, trust me. But to start, maybe you can say something like, to make sure nothing gets missed, can we keep all requests in one place? That will help me keep everything organized and ensure faster turnaround for you. You're not policing them. You're protecting the work. And you're also protecting yourself from constant context switching, which drains your time and your focus more than a lot of people realize. Don't get me wrong, I preach boundaries, and I wouldn't be this kind with any client who is communicating every which place with me. So I'm telling you it's okay if you can handle it. I don't think it's okay. If you're just getting started, though, I truly understand that it's difficult and you might want to communicate a little softer than us old dollies like me, right? And some messy clients are just not disorganized. They're emotionally reactive. They may send messages in frustration or urgency or overwhelm. And the key here is not to absorb that emotion. That's their emotion. Your job is to respond to the task, not the tone. So a grounding response could be, I hear that this is urgent. Here's what I can complete today and what we'll need to follow up on tomorrow. Let me know how you'd like to proceed. You have to stay steady. You can't mirror the panic if a client is panicked. You're going to build trust with them when you can make them feel steady, right? And the biggest mistake the VAs make with a messy client is over-functioning. And what that means is taking on responsibility for clarity that isn't yours, or working extra hours to fix chaos, or avoiding boundary conversations because you don't want to upset them and, oh, I can just do this for them and that's okay, or assuming that something will get better without structure changes. I always tell you that you cannot be more responsible to your client's business than they are, and that is what all of those things are. You are, however, probably much better at handling the details than they are. So you have to take a stand and tell them how to work with you. I can't even say this enough, but when you get to this point in your VA business and when you confidently can talk about the processes and all the things that go with it, you absolutely will feel better about everything. It's so simple. It's a hard change to make. I do understand that. Because what happens if you don't is the client will just adjust to your overfunctioning. So you just get more done, right? And your workload increases. Nothing changes. The mess doesn't shrink, and it might even get bigger. So when you handle a messy client well, you're not trying to change who they are, just how they work with you. You can't change the way they are. They can only change the way they are, right? But you can be very, very clear on how things work with you, and that's very easy for just about any client to follow. You introduce clear intake processes, define proper communication channels, hold boundaries around things like scope and urgency, and set and manage expectations every day. And guess what happens when you do those things? Well, one of two things actually happens. The client gets it and loves it and becomes easier to work with. That is the dream. Or the client resists one or more of the pieces and they basically self-select as a client that you don't want to work with anymore. A messy client is not a reflection of your ability. It's a reflection of where structure is missing in the relationship. It's not that you are failing to support someone. It's that there is something in between the two of you missing to make sure that everything gets done in a clear and concise manner. And your confidence as a VA doesn't need to come from controlling everything. It comes from knowing what you will and will not deal with. Cleaning up a messy client sets the tone for how your business operates, and that is what builds your long-term success. I'm going to leave it here for now, but let's circle back to today's quote. Clear is kind, unclear is unkind. I want you to step away from the unkind. Get very clear on how your clients need to work with you and tidy up your messy ones. Tidy up one messy one this week. I can help if you need help. It's the only reason I'm here at all is to help you become a ridiculously good virtual assistant. We can work together to identify and fix your messy client relationships through private coaching. I have a great private coaching special on right now. Check out the ways that you can work with me by going to yourvamentor.com/links. That is all I've got for you today. That's enough, right? Let's stop talking about mess. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning into the podcast today. I will see you next time.